Hey, before we get into the episode, I just want to tell you about my free astrology newsletter called the Starzologer. It comes out every Sunday. It's of a lot of interest for astrologers. I explore cosmic currents moving through the ever-changing skies. Most weeks I explore what's coming up in the week and also share some astrology sticky bits and throw in some ideas about buzzing around. You also get stretched with my Extend Yourself sections. So this newsletter is for aspiring astrologers or anyone who's trying to up their astrological knowledge. It's totally free and you can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hi, Alison. It's great to be here again.
So nice to have you once more here. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the Libra equinox for 2024.
Yeah.
So what that means is it's actually the chart when the sun enters Libra, and it signals the beginning of a new season.
Yes. In this case, fall.
Fall.
Or if we're in the southern hemisphere, spring.
Spring, yeah. Exactly. So what really happens is because there's 4 cardinal signs, every time the sun enters a cardinal sign, we get a new season.
Yes.
And I know myself and you know here, looking in the city,
yeah.
The leaves are turning already.
They are, yeah.
Or the trees are turning different colors. The leaves are falling.
Yeah.
The acorns are dropping.
Yeah. It's still warm. It still feels summery, but there's a breeze on the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those I picked up some sycamore pods the other day.
Oh, lovely.
And for my Nature Journal thing, which is just by the by.
Yeah.
But the thing is, although we are still in summer technically,
yeah,
because we're now we are actually entering the autumn.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Arwynne, in general, do you have a favorite season of the year?
I do, and it's summer.
Is that right?
Yes. So this is a bittersweet time of the year for me, by which I mean it sucks and I hate it. And people are like, "Oh, it's going to be fall soon," and I kind of cringe and I hate it. Yeah, it makes me very sad.
It's like, so for you, summer is the best month because it's warm? Or?
It's warm and I get to be outside and I get to skate and I get to get a tan, which I like, and I don't care if anybody objects to it. I love being in the sun.
And when you say skating?
Roller skating.
Roller skating.
Yes, I'm a fan of that and it's my favorite hobby. And as soon as winter comes or fall or whatever, and for us in Vancouver, that means rainy season.
It does, right?
It's so depressing. Not to be a complete bummer, but yeah, summer's my favorite. So, yeah. And also my best friend is a school teacher, so it's back to school season for her. So that means that she is busier and we see less of each other. And when we do see each other, I tend to catch colds because she teaches little first graders and they're, just constantly sick.
Yes, yes. A million years ago, I worked at an elementary school in the JK and SK, the 6 to 7 year olds, and I was going down every month with something.
Yep. Passing it on to everyone who breathes the same.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Personally, for me, summer's the best season as well. When we first arrived in Canada from South Africa, where everything's hot all the time, and summer came, I was still waiting for it to get hot.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, it never got hot, and it started to get cooler again. And I thought, oh, did I miss summer? Mm-hmm. And so you got to kind of gear yourself up that as soon as you see the sun break out, get out there.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. You will see me like in April or May, like as soon as it's even, because we're in Celsius, but Celsiusville here. So as soon as it breaks above like 15, I'm like out there in shorts and, a lot of people, it's even lower temperatures. They'll get out there in their shorts and we're like, what are you doing in February? That one warm week we get. Yeah. But you have to jump on it and you cannot let a day go by.
No, you can't. And this is the thing. You actually, because we have these 4 seasons here, which we never got in Africa, it was just summer and then more summer. You just don't get, you've got to move on the summer as soon as it comes through. But here we are now at the tail end of summer, moving into the autumn, into the fall.
Yeah.
And so as good astrologers, we cast a chart, I do, called the Libra equinox, which is when the sun actually enters Libra this year. And you can do this for every quarter. So these are called solar quarters as opposed to the Q1 to Q2 that you get with business quarters, so technically if we're going into the autumn quarter or the Libra quarter, but the business ones would start from October the 1st, October, November, December. Yeah. That is Q4, where they're all saying, get ready for Q4 because it's a busy season. And it is. Yeah. It's all this back to school stuff. You've got this run up to the holidays and there's a whole load of busyness going on. Yeah. A lot of astrology classes start. A lot of people go on conferences and things like that.
Yeah, people come back from vacations.
Yeah, and get down to it. Yeah. Whereas during the summer, we're making the most of it by sitting in the sun.
Yeah. So what is the actual date that we cast this chart for?
So this chart for this year, for 2024, is actually cast for September the 22nd. And because we're in Vancouver, it's 5:41 a.m., but wherever you are, you will cast the chart for the moment the sun enters. Mm-hmm. And that's actually my brother's birthday, which is kind of interesting as well. Nice. But he's a Virgo, not a Libra. So these dates do change, right? Yes. And so this chart that we have, so because we're doing it, it's technically a mundane chart because it's not somebody's natal chart. It's set for on the 0 Aries house system, so the whole thing's set. And this actual chart, and there's a link to the blog post below this podcast episode, where you can actually look at this chart. So it's quite a busy chart, and normally they're not, but this one is. Mm-hmm. So what we have is, the main thing is that there are 4 Neptune kites sitting in there.
Wow.
And there's 2 T-squares as well. Now, normally you get 1 or 2 or bits and bobs. But anyway, so there's these 4 Neptune kites, and but they're so close together.
Yeah.
I'm going to break one of my rules now and read it as one, because what it means is that with a kite, you've got a grand trine with 3 planets or 3 or more planets. Yeah. And in this case, it's Pluto on the 1 point. Then we've got the moon conjunct Uranus at the 2nd point. And then we have the sun conjunct Mercury at the 3rd point, creating these grand trines. Wow. So there's 2 of them there. And then it, because there's a kite then out to Neptune, so the opposition is going from the sun and Mercury to the Neptune in Pisces at 28 degrees Pisces, retrograde at the tail end.
Right on the ascendant.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, that's because it's 0 Aries. Yeah. And what's happening is that we've got these... Technically, there are 4 kites, but they're so close together. And because it's mundane, I would read it as one, saying that the energy from all of this kite, which is generally a pretty good pattern to have, is going through this Neptune.
Yeah. Wow. And like, I don't know about you, but this is basically the pattern for the season, right?
Yes, exactly. For this until the solstice in December 21.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the entire fall that we're looking ahead to.
Yes.
I'm just seeing politics. I know that's my. I mean, that's kind of my. I will see that probably.
Absolutely.
But this is definitely looking like a political chart to me.
Exactly.
This is speaking to the season we're going into.
Yeah. Whoa. Well, we've got, as I said, there's these 4 kites. Yeah. Because Neptune's the focal planet, I'm just going to give you some of my thoughts here on this. Mm-hmm. Because Neptune as a planet has to do with intuition, the unseen, art, music, and in general, and sometimes people in the shadows who are not there, or people in the shadows who have been there, but we've been ignoring them. Mm-hmm. Because this is a chart for everybody, this would be the type of thing that we're looking for. So I would interpret this as being that there is something going on in the background, in the shadows, that we haven't quite seen yet. Mm. And it can be on several fronts. It could be on the global stage with the main politics, what we're talking about. But it can also be in your own home, where is someone standing there in the shadows?
Call is coming from inside the house.
Yes, that you haven't been paying attention to. But whatever's happening is this situation is going to come forward, or this person's going to come forward, or this atmosphere is going to come forward. And during this season, we are going to be saying as a populace, gee, I didn't quite see that coming, but it was kind of, I could see the signs now I'm looking back. Or, and I'm going to use an example that, if it's your husband and he's having an affair, you're thinking, I saw her, but I didn't see her. And it's that sort of thing. Yeah. Or the writing's on the wall, but we're not reading it.
Yeah.
So things can catch you unawares, but suddenly it dawns on you, oh, hang on, I see what this is.
Yeah.
So this is how these kites are likely to unfold, because they're Neptune.
Right. And then you go back and you're looking for all the clues that you missed. and they're there.
They're
You
there.
just haven't been putting them together.
You just haven't been joining the dots. Or if, say, you're in a job and they're going to fold and,
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So it's also possible that it's something which people didn't want to talk about because Mercury is totally involved here. And it could also be a situation where emotions are running deep as the Moon and Pluto are embedded here. But with the presence of Pluto and Uranus, it's likely to be some kind of, I want to say, taboo subject or something that is slightly distasteful, which is going to be brought to our attention whether we like it or not. Mm-hmm. Now, this, I believe, could happen to you if you are paying attention in general during the season. But normally these charts are played out on the world stage. And something is going to come to our attention, and we'll talk about it in 3 months' time, that we're thinking, really? Really? Is that what happened? But I saw them, but I didn't realize that was going on.
Interesting.
So I know. And we've got this monster election, and we've been talking about it quite a bit. But what's happening is, because it's this big kite, it's engaging all these planets, Neptune, the Moon, Uranus, Pluto, and the Sun and Mercury.
Wow. They
are fully engaged in this situation that is there, and it will come to our attention. Now, I also suspect there will be people who will, even when they see it, they're going to say, no.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. Nothing can just happen these days.
Exactly. So that's the main. And then we just move on. There's two other, the 4 kites, and then there are 2 actual T-squares in this chart, which usually a pretty good thing. So the first is our Jupiter T-square, and this is Jupiter is squaring Mercury and Neptune, and then there's a second Jupiter T-square, which is the Sun and Neptune. So there are actually 2 T-squares there, and we are likely to consider that Jupiter is in Gemini. Mm-hmm. It's in its detriment. We spoke about this before.
Yeah. Big
untruths coming forward.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot being exposed during this season.
Propaganda,
that's the word.
Yeah. And that's Neptune as well.
Yeah. So you're going to get these, I would like to say we're going to get new hashtags coming out in this season because it's Gemini coming through as well, because Jupiter is being triggered, and Jupiter's not that well placed in Gemini, but we'll live with it, So that's kind of an interesting thing too. And then there's also a Pluto T-square, which is pretty darn solid. Now, this is a cardinal T-square. It's Pluto is squaring Venus and Chiron. So these are different planets that are coming into this match here. And when you get Venus and Pluto together, this is always a financial combination.
Right. Totally.
But Pluto is totally at the tail end. It's at 29 degrees, 43 minutes of Capricorn. So it's got, 17 minutes to go before it moves into Aquarius for the next 240 years.
Yeah.
This is its last gasp.
Right. But of course it's taking forever to do.
Yes.
It's just sitting on that point.
Yes.
Like going back and forth.
And it's only in January 2025 it actually will finally move into Aquarius. Yeah. So it's giving its last kick of the can, is that what we say? Or let's shake a bit. So
the last kick at the Capricorn.
Let's kick at the Capricorn. So I don't know when the inauguration is supposed to be, but I understand it's sometime in January.
Yep.
Anyway, so
around then.
So we've got that. We'll talk about that chart another day, but we've got that coming through. Yeah. So for the whole of this quarter, which is our season, what we're talking about, Pluto is lingering, or as I like to say, loitering with intent. Mm-hmm. Right at the end of Capricorn, and it's also in the anaretic 29th degree. So that means every sign's 29th degree is known as an anaretic degree, right? And these are the gasp, the last gasp of the sign. They're not particularly effective, but they're still hanging on for dear life.
Yes.
Wow. I know.
That's an interesting looking chart. It looks like there's a lot going on.
Well, when I cast the chart, I thought, oh, good heavens, there's so much in this chart. Whereas normally there's like a T-square,
Right.
So I'd want to say with this particular Pluto T-square that this is an indication that the powers that be are going to go back on their word. Imagine that. And typically Capricorn is to do with the government, rules, regulations, and politics in general. We'll go with that. So this will be a focus for the quarter. And as I say, Pluto has lingered in Capricorn. It's been there for years.
Yeah, since 2008.
Yeah, so this isn't a new energy, but it's just a final gasp before the quarter ends.
Yeah.
And that's not all.
No.
We still have another major aspect pattern, which is the Venus yod. So we've got this Venus yod where Venus is in Libra, nicely placed, because remember the sun is in Libra, so this is technically a Libran-centric chart.
Right.
And Venus is in there, so she's doing quite well.
Yeah.
So Venus is in Libra, and there's 2 quincunxes to the moon in Gemini and Neptune, in Pisces. So it's a very feminine little yod going on there, and we don't think we've spoken about yods yet. We need to dig into those at some point. But they're often spiritual or almost ethereal major aspect patterns.
Finger of God.
Yeah, the finger of God, the finger of fate, and there's a pointer in the chart, and it's pointing to Venus saying, "Hey, look at me."
Interesting.
So this elevates Venus and gives us a clue that we do need to pay attention to this energy. And if the yod was the only pattern, we would be focusing right in on it. But we've got all this other stuff to wade our way through first. Right.
I would love to see these the presidential candidates with this chart laid over theirs in a bi-wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when we get to the election, we'll do that.
Yeah.
I just want to say for this quarter that the Venus themes will be a focus, but they're not going to be on the headlines. They're going to be on page 3, if you know what that, they're there if you're looking. Again, it's one of those things. And Venus themes broadly have to do with love, money, and women in general.
Yeah.
So I think we can anticipate that some women will come forward who perhaps are intuitive, artistic, or musical in some way. And it's almost as though this Venus yod is the symbol of the goddess.
Yeah.
So let's be clear. We're not talking about a grumpy old Aunt Agatha peeling potatoes at the kitchen sink. We are talking about a woman who's going to be an inspiration for others, who is likely to step forward. Now, maybe you're more tuned into what's going on with women in general, and you can give us some feedback on this as some woman steps forward in this role. Yeah. So what I'm saying is it's likely that somebody in this silhouette will form and come to our attention during this solar quarter.
All right.
But we've got to be paying attention. But we're going to be sidetracked with all this other stuff where we're going, he did what? She did what? Oh, my God.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So the next thing I just want to turn our attention to is the dispositor tree for this chart, because we got to love a dispositor tree. Or I certainly do.
Yes, we do.
And because it shows the backstory of the chart. So what we have here is there are 2 planets in rulership trees. So technically there's 2 trees. There is a Mercury in Virgo tree and a Venus in Libra tree.
That's just like mine.
Is that right?
Yeah. I've got 2 trees, Mercury in Virgo and Venus in Libra. Wow.
Well, we call this the Arwynne tree.
All right.
Why not? So the Mercury tree is actually larger, and because it's got more planets in it, so in a way it carries more weight in this chart. Mm-hmm. But Mercury is about what?
It's communication.
Yeah. And all the stuff we hear and all the it's all going to be through the words that you're thinking.
Yeah. And at least it's in Virgo, not to throw any shade on the Geminis, but at least Mercury in Virgo it tends to be a little more interested in details and accuracy than Gemini, which is just, kind of sometimes just gossiping and spouting and, saying one thing to one person and one thing to another person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a highly focal planet, focused planet. So it's going to be through the news, through the newspaper, through the streaming.
Yeah.
Again, through the hashtags and whatnot.
Hashtags, media.
And what's coming through. Now, this chart, this is an interesting tree as well, because it's got Jupiter there as a gateway planet. So that means Jupiter is below Mercury, and Jupiter has 3 planets below it. So Jupiter's now throttling.
Yeah.
And it's the gateway, and it's holding back, or because it's Jupiter and Gemini, it's going to expand what's coming through.
Yeah.
So if she said, I lost 300 pounds, she actually lost 120. But so all of these facts and figures and numbers and details that you get bombarded with these days, you need to double check everything.
Yeah.
I would definitely go with that too, because there's going to be, it's highlighting these planets again. This is the thing. And as we spoke earlier, that is part of the T-square as well.
Yeah.
And then below that, all the other planets fall. But the point is that within the Mercury tree, where the news we're getting will be blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot of it to sift through.
Yeah.
And what do they call that when they give you so much information you can't find the nugget they overwhelm you with stuff like lawyers do, and they they just send so much around you can't get to the core issue.
Yeah, information overload.
Information overload, yeah.
Sure.
So
Jupiter and Gemini, absolutely information overload.
Yeah. So that's likely to definitely come through. And as I say, because Mercury is the stronger tree, that will be the case. Yeah. And then we do have this Venus rulership tree, which, remember, Venus is that yod planet. Yeah. So this, I'm saying this woman in the shadows, the silhouette of somebody coming forward. I don't want to say it's Mother Teresa, but it's going to be someone who we can look up to. And not just hopefully for their fashion sense, you know what I'm saying? By something they've done.
It's funny because it almost seems we've gotten to such a point in the world now where there's nobody, hardly anybody, who everyone actually genuinely looks up to in a like back in the day. Mother Teresa could be said to be that, but even she had her reputation kind of tarnished because of a few statements that she made against certain type. I can't remember at the time, and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, Mother Teresa, not all that, great." Whatever.
I know.
But I mean, I can't even think of maybe the Dalai Lama for sure, but I can't think of a woman who everyone has just wholeheartedly been like, "Yes, she's awesome, no question." Yes. Maybe some of the scientists, like
Marie Curie or somebody, or the Queen or something, or the Queen Mother.
Yeah, and even then, it's like, so that would be nice. That would sure be amazing. If
something. What's running through my head, and this is just me meandering on, is it's either going to be Princess Catherine who's fighting back her issues and whatnot. Alternatively, it might be our new friend Kamala, who is going to just step forward into some shining spotlight. Time will tell.
Whoa, are you predicting something ill?
No, not yet. No, not at all. I'm just saying that, as someone to be not dismissed, but someone who can say, yes, why don't you follow her role, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Because I say it's the goddess as well. So that's kind of interesting. And the sun is in Libra in Venus's tree, and this is a Libra equinox chart. So the sun's position is critical here. Yeah. Then the only other planet there is Uranus and Taurus, so there's going to be some side. But again, Venus is ruling Libra and Taurus, so that's why those planets are there. Yeah. So I've got some ideas about this Venus and Libra, which I'm going to put out there. Right. Because Venus is in Libra, and this is the Libra equinox chart, it's quite a high-profile planet because it brings focus to this seventh sign itself, along with the sun, which is spotlighting the sign of the scales already. Mm-hmm. And usually I'd be quite happy with Venus and Libra, but it's in that pesky 29th degree, the anaretic degree at the very tail end of the sign. However, it is there. And although it will still have a strong influence because it's a top planet in the dispositor tree, it is, I want to say, almost on its last gasp. So again, this is an indication that we need to be paying attention to maybe things in the shadows and thinking, yes, that is a value, what she's putting forward there. Mm. So this is also coupled with the fact that Venus is part of the Pluto T-square, so it will support Pluto as well. Mm. And additionally, Venus is the odd planet. And, I wouldn't want this chart to be a natal chart.
Oh, gosh, no. It's a little much.
It's huge, right? Yeah. It's absolutely huge. Yeah. So then just having a look at some of the overarching themes of this chart. I mean, clearly it's not a natal chart. It's a mundane chart for the season, for the quarter. So it's all to do with turns and balances. So you want to remember that when you look at an annual equinoxes and the solstices charts, they are snapshots of the transits at one of the four cardinal ingresses. Right. And these type of charts can be informative for general trends for 3 months in a year, and in this case, for the last season this year. Mm-hmm. So if you are a forecasting astrologer, this is where we're paying attention. It's always good to see what is going on in the wide-ranging trends are at these turning and balance points with the sun. Right. And I think it's always interesting to take into consideration each season's chart. So in this case, we're looking at the autumn-spring chart to see what's likely to be unfolding in the overall background themes for everybody. And that's what I want to say about this chart, that if you're a forecasting astrologer, these are trends that are going to be unfolding.
Yeah, and they will affect everybody for the next 3 months.
Yeah. But this is no way going to override your natal chart, your personal transits, or anything else going on, or even this election we keep giving innuendo to. Yeah. So that is the Libra Equinox chart. So we want to finish off this episode with some fabulous reader feedback. And Arwynne, you've got some information for us on that.
Yeah, actually, we were contacted by someone whose chart we interpreted back in May. Mm-hmm. And this was the chart for Bella Boom.
Right.
And we are not going to obviously give any identifying details about her or her name or anything like that, or what she's doing for a living. She did give us some updates on her situation and some feedback on what we had said about her chart. But I just wanted to share the part that is, the part that's praising us, really. Like, let's just focus on that part. She says, "You interpreted my chart back in May. I was so grateful at the time and just had a re-listen. Wow, I missed some things the first pass, and I feel a double dose of appreciation on this review." And she says that she appreciates the balance between the two of us and the way that we share insights and perspectives, and that, it's just wonderful feedback.
Fantastic.
So, thank you, Bella Boom. We really appreciate your feedback, your support, and
we appreciate it.
Absolutely. And
so and Bella sent us this message via the text, which you can do if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Yeah. At the very top link at the very top, you can click that and send a text directly to us, and let us know what you think of how we're doing. We'd love to know, but we really appreciate Bella Boom for sending that in. It made our day,
absolutely,
right? It made our day.
Yeah, for sure.
So I do thank you so much for listening. If you've got this far, we do appreciate that. You can email us at starzology@gmail.com or visit our website at starzology.com. And certainly, I urge you to follow Arwynne, and she is...
I'm at mspink.net. That's mspink.net. And if you visit in the next, anytime after mid-September, probably.
In this season.
Yes, you will see a brand new, fancy, lovely website, which
wow.
I have been working on like crazy over the last week. I recently realized I needed to change my web hosting. And I am just going to actually throw the names out there because, hey, whatever. I was with Wix and I am now moving over to Squarespace. So hello, Squarespace, and goodbye, Wix, good riddance, etc. Nice. The new site is going to be fabulous, and I would encourage you all to go visit it and subscribe to my newsletter so you can get weekly updates.
And what are you talking about on your website?
I am talking about movies, about books, about popular culture, about science, about history, about anything that interests me.
And you send your newsletter out
weekly.
Every week.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's happening.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Arwynne, I want to thank you for being here today on our podcast. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank our listeners for getting this far. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.